Good evening. Welcome to a new episode of the Guru Perspective. And today I want to talk about some NCAA football upsets that happened this week on Rivalry Week, of course. And I want to discuss what happened in the NFL. There's a lot of good games and a lot of intriguing things that happened just recently, and I want to just break it down for you. I want to start off and talk about Thursday game. I want to talk about Thursday NCAA football, that is. We already started off with upsets that day when we seen Memphis take down Tulane. That final score was 34 Memphis and 24 Tulane. I really thought that it'd have been a better effort, for Tulane just because they're so low ranked right now. Ranked 17 for Tulane is not bad, but I still feel like they needed to do just a little bit more to try to knock on the door of the playoffs. Do I think that they will advance? Absolutely not. But it would have been a little bit more of a chance. I don't know. I mean, because of their division's kind of weak and it's not a strong division like the SEC, Big Ten, even the ACC. Whatever division you're in right now. If you're not, I even think the Mountain West have a good chance of going in because I see Boise State definitely making it into the playoffs right now. But it was actually a pretty good game. You know me, regardless if it's Army and Navy, I'm watching football. That's just what I do. I just didn't really feel like it was a lot of effort on Tulane part. The quarterback actually did really good, but I feel like Darian Manside could have did a little better, with leading that team to try to go to victory and knowing what was at stake. He had 317 yards through the air with two touchdowns, and he had a pick on the day. And on the other hand, Memphis, Hannigan, he did a pretty solid job too. He did enough for them to get and seal the victory with 218 yards through the air and two touchdowns. Really good game. I thought that for sure that Tulane was going to have enough to pull it off, but obviously, you play to win the game. That's what it's all about, and that's what I liked when it first started off in college was that upset. Boise handled business against Oregon State. I mean, that's what I thought that they would do, and I feel like right now I'm looking at the Heisman race. And I feel like Austin Genty is one of those guys right now that is trying to make a case. Him and Travis Hunter, they're just trying to make ground. Man, he had 37 carries, 226 yards, and a score. Most times he carried that team on his back to win. But actually, the quarterback did a little something. Madison, he had a pretty good game, which most times it'd be all Genting, but this time it was like a little bit of both. Genting carried the weight with the 226 yards with his workload, but I feel like the quarterback did pretty good too. Madison, he had 195 yards and two scores to go on the day as well. That final score was 34-18, Oregon. Boise State. Oklahoma State versus Colorado. Colorado felt embarrassed after losing to Kansas. They had a chance to make it to the playoffs if they would have just stayed with the two losses they had on their record. That loss definitely helped them, not make it to the playoffs. If I'm not mistaken, they'll be in a bowl game, of course, but their chances at a bowl game was ended abruptly with that loss to Kansas. And they took it out on Oklahoma State. It was 0-52, and Travis Hunter was all over the place. He definitely won that Heisman. Shedeur Sanders had 438 yards, five touchdowns, and he had a pick on the day. But the guy who's to look for was LeJontay Wester. He had a really solid game, and I wasn't really surprised neither because as bad as they put it on Oklahoma State, he had 11 receptions for 175 yards and two scores as well. And that score, I shouldn't even really be talking about this game because it wasn't even fair to me and anybody else who watched. It was 52-0 Colorado. Mississippi State and Ole Miss was actually a pretty good game. It was pretty close until it wasn't anymore. And I feel like right now that a lot of guys was trying to make state, and I feel like Jackson Dark did a good job. He's trying to still fight for his playoff chances, and I can only wish him well right now. He had 143 yards to the air in the score, and the running back did a lot of the load. Ulysses Bentley the fourth, He had 136 yards and he had a score as well. And that final score was 26-14. And Ole Miss is waiting now. It's a lot of things can still happen and still at stake. So it's good to win out right now. I believe that it's going to be maybe one, possibly two teams in that, playoff, probably ranked 11 and 12 that will be going to the playoffs. And not only that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's two, three lost teams in there, at least one at this point. The game I really want to talk about was very good, man. This game kept my adrenaline going. I'm already excited. I had a really good, you know, holiday with the family. And I will talk about that half because, I was very nervous. I was an emotional wreck, but, I'll get straight to that pretty soon. But the 8 overtimes that I seen against Georgia Tech in Georgia, I really thought that Georgia Tech had this game. They just let the game slip away. You couldn't continue to let the Bulldogs get into the game. I feel like they had many opportunities to shut them out and, close them out and basically give them the biggest upset of the year. They just didn't have it in them. And it's no disrespect because I feel like both teams are winners. The final score was 44-42. Like I said, 8 overtimes. So it took a lot out of Georgia. I want to see what Georgia has left in the tank now when they're going in and they're going to be playing against Texas. So, yeah, I'll definitely get into that as well. It was a lot of stuff that went on, and it wasn't a lot of parity in football. It was a few upsets. I want to talk about one of them, Michigan and Ohio State. I love that. That really made me stay up most of the night. I was just very excited. I was blessed as well to see that game. I had my family over and we kind of hung out, watched that game. At first, the game was like 3-7. I said, okay, I kind of figured that'd be that much and it's going to get out of hand eventually soon once Ohio State start to, match and click on all cylinders. But it didn't happen that way. And I'm one of the guys who I love my teams, but when it comes down to it, we knew this year Saran Moore and the Michigan Wolverines had their hands full. We know they were going to have some growing pains. We lost a lot of seniors and a lot of guys are in the NFL right now. That's just the way it is. That being said, I was definitely very gracious and I was thankful to see what happened as well because when we seen that game, it was very close. When it was 3-7, I said, "Oh man, it's going to be a sluggish game and it's going to be drawn out, but Ohio State will eventually win." It didn't happen that way. What I liked about the game was it was too close for comfort, and when we got that pick and got the touchdown, I said, "Okay, they was in their end zone." But what really made me mad was the pick that we threw in the end zone. Once it came down to it at the end, we kicked the field goal. We couldn't convert on the touchdown, and we stopped Ohio State from scoring. The final score was 13-10 Michigan. It was a lot of craziness going on, too. People staking flags in the middle of the field and the fighting. I don't condone violence, but the rivalry games hit different, and that's what I think that was all about. It was like really out of hand when that happened. The Ohio State players weren't too happy. I mean, several times when we lost, and we had like an 8-game losing streak to Ohio State, and they did that, and we didn't take exception. I mean, you get that right when you win the game. They felt some kind of way when we went to the Buckeye Stadium and we went there and we did what we did. We staked that, or they tried to stake it into their field, and it was an all out brawl. It was a really bad, nasty scuffle. Police got involved, kids got pepper sprayed. It got nasty. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, both teams got fined $10,000 for the event that happened. What I was more or less disappointed in is Ryan Day just sit in the trenches and didn't really try to do anything. It was a lot of people trying to break up the fight, and it got really nasty when the police got involved. I think they're saying they're going to probe that incident too, with the kids being pepper sprayed, and it got out of hand, and it definitely got out of hand quick. I, at the end of the day, I was happy they got the win, but didn't condone the violence and the things that happened afterwards. But go blue. Tennessee versus Vanderbilt actually came out pretty good at first. They had a 17-7 lead when it came into the fourth. It was the first quarter they had that lead. I think they got a kickoff and then they scored and then they kicked the field goal. So yeah, that was a pretty intense game too until it wasn't. Tennessee held their ground and they ended up pulling that game off. I actually enjoyed the game, but I thought that it was going to be a little bit more from Tennessee, and they did prove themselves. But I thought that they were just going to walk all over Vanderbilt. But Vanderbilt letting people know right now in the SEC they're not the stumping stone anymore, or the team you just step all over and wipe your feet on, wipe mud on. They're holding their ground now, and I want to see where this takes Vanderbilt and how good they be in the future. South Carolina was another big upset. The South Carolina versus Clemson game, I don't know how big of an upset that is because they were so close in ranking. South Carolina was 15 and Clemson's number 12. But Clemson, after losing to Ohio State, they just really seemed like they clicked. And once they clicked, they did good. They executed and they played a lot of good football. I said Dabo Swinney got something going on here. The issue is when they finally got that opportunity, I felt like they failed right here. And this was a chance for them to definitely, for sure, get their stake into the college football playoffs. I don't know what's going to happen with South Carolina and still really undecided with Alabama and some of these other teams. So we'll see. This week is going to determine a lot, and I will be definitely giving my predictions. But the final score was 17-14. South Carolina prevailed. And I felt like that was actually not a bad game as well. A lot of the rivalry games hit different when you have rivals, and it was just really good to watch. Illinois beat Northwestern 38-28. Don't really want to really get into that one. Maryland lost to Penn State 44-7. Notre Dame had a pretty close contest with, USC, which I was surprised about. I believe the pick six and just a lot of poor execution cost them that game. But it being 49-35, I didn't expect that. I thought they was just going to go and beat the snot out of USC, and USC didn't lay down and didn't have it. I believe the turn or the shift of the game is when that pick six happened because that definitely could have been a closer game. But at the end of the day, I just didn't really feel like USC was in their league, and they ended up, doing pretty good. So any given day in college football, Alabama, number 13, Alabama took Auburn and Iron Bowl. They handled business. I feel like they should have handled business last week, and if they did, we wouldn't be in this position right now. But the end of the game, the final score was 28 Alabama, 14 Auburn. Auburn was this they were playing Bowl Buster. They come in and they'll win games and beat teams they didn't supposed to. But then, like I said, on any given day in the SEC, ACC, wherever division you're in, a team can beat another team. You can't just go in and feel like you're going to win because you are Alabama or you're Oklahoma or Tennessee. You got to play to win the game. That game, I feel like Jalen Milroe was okay when it came to throwing. He was average at best. It's funny how he throw a pretty long ball but can't hit a person on a slant or a 5-yard route. He had 17 carries for 104 yards and 3 touchdowns. Him doing with his legs is definitely what he's supposed to do. Him trying to throw the ball through the air and trying to be a quarterback, a traditional quarterback, is not his game. So they did what they had to do by beating Auburn. I feel like right now we just got to wait and see. Possibly, I believe still at the least they will be 11th or 12th when it comes to this playoff race. Arizona State versus Arizona, I thought it was going to be a little closer than what it was, and I was surprised they got blew out 49-7. It was just an embarrassing. Arizona, I thought that had a really good upside too, and they proved me wrong. That game was a disaster before it happened. And Sam Levitt, if I'm saying his name right, he had a really good game. He had 291 yards and he had 3 touchdowns. But the main person who actually held his team on his back was Cam Skaterball. And Scatterball had a really solid game. He had 21 carries for 177 yards and three scores. And that game didn't even get close whatsoever. I'm not going to really talk about the Purdue and Indiana game. I'm going to just let you know the score. Purdue 0, Indiana 66. That's big volumes right there. I feel like Oregon was going to handle business against Washington. They're still undefeated. When they had to take top ranked teams, they beat them. One of the biggest wins was when they beat Ohio State, and they also put the one loss on Boise State record as well. So I have to give credit to Gillen Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel had 209 yards through the air, and he had two touchdowns. And running back Jordan James actually had a solid game as well. He had 99 yards, and with the 99 yards, he had two scores as well to put up. But 49 to 21, I kind of expected that because Washington, after losing Kalen DeBoer, is definitely not the team they used to be. Texas versus Texas A&M, I was a little disappointed in this game because I really thought that that was going to be a better game. It could have been. I was just confused at when they could have got the sure points. They could have got two field goals, but then they want to go for it on fourth and got stuffed both times. And that at the end result cost them the game. I felt like it was sloppy and you should have went with the points when you had the opportunity. And the game could have been a lot closer to what it was, but the poor execution and them not really deciding to do what they need to do, which take the points if they're there. I wouldn't give up on any points. And I know they looked at it, and a lot of times they say the statistics say go for it on 4th and 1. But in this case, they should have just been smart. I know the fans might not like it, that the fact that they kicked the field goals, but sometimes you got to go for it and live to see another play. Kansas State, Iowa State, that game was okay. You know what? I apologize. Let me actually say that final score. It was 17-7. And Texas won over Texas A&M. That was the team that I had as the upset. I felt like Texas A&M could have upset them at home, and I was wrong. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm that guy and I know everything, but I felt like they had an opportunity to sneak in and take one from Texas, and they had that opportunity. Like I said, the game was closer than what the score is, but they just didn't take advantage of good opportunities, in my opinion. Okay, now Kansas State, Iowa State. I'm disappointed in Kansas State because I really thought Avery Johnson was going to be phenomenal. He looked good this year. He had flashes. I still feel like he's going to be good. And Kansas State is only one of them teams that's finally coming up and they'll be getting more recognition next season. He had 220 yards and three touchdowns in this game. So the game wasn't a blowout, but still, I feel like I thought they was a little better than what they are right now with an 8-4 record. They will still go to a bowl game, but just thought they was slightly better. Jace Brown, the wide receiver, had three receptions for 106 yards, and he had two scores as well. It was a really close contest, but it was just too much Iowa State. And Rocco Beck, he actually was okay on the day. He had 137 yards through the air with two scores. And his main target, Jaden Higgins, looked pretty sharp too. He didn't really have too much through the air with 53 yards, but he had a score as well. And I felt like their defense was a little bit more stifling than what I expected. Iowa State always have a tough team, even when they had our running back, David Montgomery. So they're going to always be one of them hard-nosed teams. And then, you got to respect Iowa and Iowa State and those type of teams that have really disciplined coaches and fundamentals as well. So credit what credit is due. Respect to number 18 ranked Iowa State. Nevada UNLV kind of figured that was going to go the way it did. Number 22 ranked UNLV handled business 38-14. Houston played BYU, and BYU definitely needed this victory. I've been disappointed with them. I thought that they were going to go undefeated or maybe just lose a game, but to lose in the fashion they did to the teams they lost to, number 19 needed this win more than anybody else in this absolute time. That final score was 30-18. Boise State took on Oregon State, like I said, and that final score was 34-18. And oh, okay, I'm sorry. I already discussed these. These were the games that happened prior to Saturday. Moving on. I want to get into the NFL and I want to talk about some of the things that actually happened in the NFL, starting with the Thursday games. When I said I was stressing on Thanksgiving, I'm going to tell you why. Stressing big time because of the fact that I felt like the Lions had every opportunity. They were winning, and it just didn't feel like they were winning, the way they played. It was like 16-0. And I said, okay, but then they still left points on the board. One of them was when they Jameer Gibbs, he tried to run one in and they were close to the goal line. And no, they were in the red zone. And when he was trying to run and get closer to the goal line, he got hit, fumbled the ball. When he fumbled that ball and Chicago Bears recovered it, I said, man, they're going to run out the clock. We needed those points more than we didn't. I feel more comfortable if we would have had at least a 23-0 lead in halftime. 16-0 wasn't too comfortable for me. After the half, Chicago got the ball and they scored as well. When we scored, I said, okay, now we got a little cushion. We had opportunity to score. I feel like Williams Jameis Williams did some really stupid things, and I feel like Jameson Williams is not going to be on the Lions next season. I would be surprised if he's still on the team. I love the guy. He's talented. He's from Alabama. What else can you ask for? I seen a few things with him that I just don't really feel like the Lions and their new regime wants to continue to put up with. One of the things is because, the gambling, I was surprised with that. A lot of people got caught off guard when the guys got suspended from gambling. But you had an injury and you start to come on with that injury. I was surprised, like, man, they took him and he had, ACL injuries trying to recover from. But he recovered from that. He came back, got suspended from gambling, and then he had issues with the law once again. Too many things is going on with him right now that needs to be, put in the back burner. You're a professional athlete, and I just don't feel like that's something that you should portray. So I was definitely disappointed with him. But to speak of what happened in the game when he threw the ball at the guy when he got the first down, dead in his face. He got penalized for it. And once he got penalized for it, I said, that's going to be the game right there. Fortunately enough, yeah, they did go down and score again. But with the poor clock management, Matt Eberflus said that Caleb Williams changed the play. Regardless of the fact you the coach, they're going to blame everything on you. They didn't convert. Better yet, this is the first time I feel like ever that a team got the ball inside the 30 with a timeout and didn't take the timeout or even try to go for the field goal to take the game into overtime. Now, if they took the game into overtime, I'd have been nervous. I'd have probably said, yeah, if they got the coin toss and won, we possibly going to lose this game in shocking fashion. But it was just the poor management of Matt Eberflus that lost and cost him his job. That final score was 23-20 Detroit Lions. I'm not complaining at all. Giants and the Cowboys game wasn't that bad. It wasn't too exciting, but it wasn't that bad. Drew Lock went in and he did what he had to do. He did enough to try not to lose, but I still feel like Cooper Rush didn't play bad, and he played within himself with 195 yards and a touchdown. And surprised me was Rico Dowdle, the running back. He had 22 carries for 112 yards and a touchdown, and he looked pretty sharp doing it. And like I said, that final score is 27-20. That gives the Cowboys momentum. They won 2 in a row. They actually had that shocking win against the Commanders, and then they turned around and won this game as well. The defense is playing on another level right now. And Micah Parsons saying, man, yeah, we don't have Dak Prescott, but I'm going to put some of that weight on me, and I want the team to rally behind that and us to put in better effort. And you could definitely see the better effort with the Cowboys. Depending on who they're playing further down the line, I'll see, but I don't know. They still got a slim chance, but they're still fighting with 2 games under 500. And let's see where that goes from there. The Dolphins and the Packers game, and I knew it was going to be in, Lambeau Field and the weather. I said, yeah, I don't really see the Dolphins winning this, and they're not going to have a chance. And that spoke volumes because the game was very boring. Tua had 365 yards and two touchdowns, and Jordan Love had 274 yards and two touchdowns. Josh Jacobs had 43 rushing yards and a touchdown as well. But the game got out of hand and it got out of hand fast. It was just like garbage time when the Miami Dolphins scored the 17. It just looked good, statistically, but still it was 30-17. And now I feel like they're in way more trouble than what they should be. I don't know if the Dolphins will make the playoffs, and it's time to start considering, do we want to still keep Tua around, which they're a better team with Tua, but you got to still consider his concussions and the issues he's been going through. In my opinion, I would keep him in the hopes that he don't have any more concussions or serious injuries, but then they got to start making decisions on their personnel. I know they had a lot of guys hurt, but Bradley Chubb would be back, so we'll see where it goes. But I'm just tired of the flashy Dolphins team and how everybody feel like how good they supposed to be and they underachieve. I want to move on and I want to talk about the Friday game with the Raiders and Chiefs. Actually, a pretty good game. Surprised me. It was more closer than what I expect, but the Raiders always played them well. And Aiden O'Connell had 340 yards and two scores. Patrick Mahomes had 306 yards and a touchdown, but Brock Bowers, man, that guy's been balling. He had 10 receptions for 140 yards and a touchdown. Kansas City wanted it more. And the crucial mistakes that they made, Aiden O'Connell, I felt bad because when Aiden O'Connell went back, and I don't think he expected the ball at the time. And when that fumble happened and Kansas City recovered, that was the game. That might cost Antonio Pierce's job. And I understand he released a few people because he felt like they needed to make a change, but it's going to be a full haul around, all over, or overall change. That's what I should have said. Let me clear my throat. It's going to be an overall change there. You got rid of the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach. And Antonio Pierce, I believe you next. I would be surprised if you still have another season under your belt with the Las Vegas Raiders right now. So, yeah, his season's only hotter after that game. The Colts and the Patriots game was actually pretty good. I thought the Colts was going to lose that game. The Patriots did everything to lose that game. That's just, that speaks volumes right now of where they're at and where they was before and who they are now. The game, all they needed was a touchdown to win. And I feel like Anthony Richardson, after doing and going through what he said, and when he mentioned he was tired, and, that's why he took the play off, a lot of people felt like he quit on the team when he said that. That didn't really look good. But as he came back, Flacco really played bad those two games. And now I'm thinking if they didn't let their emotions get the best of them, and just still went with the rookie, he probably would have won an extra game and they wouldn't have really been in bad a shape because right now they're 6-7. I at least think that they would have been 7-6 if he had one more game to play because it seemed like the two games Flacco played in, he stinked. So I just really want to see what happened afterwards, but I think the 25-24 victories giving Anthony Richardson confidence. This is still technically his rookie year because he didn't play that much when his rookie year when he got injured. So I only see the Sky being more of a limit for him. Sky's the limit right now. He just got to put in the work and be more of a team leader with that team. Steelers and Bengals game was really good, man. Russ was cooking. He looked like the old school Seattle Russ on that game. I was shocked, man. He had 414 yards and three touchdowns on the day. He had a pick, but still, he looked really sharp. Najee Harris is Najee Harris. He had 75 yards and a score. George Pickens really been a shining star now, and that's why I think that them going with Russ now really opens up everything for Pittsburgh because he had 74 yards and score. Joe Burrow had 309 yards, three touchdowns, and he had a pick on the day, but it still wasn't enough. Chase Brown had 70 yards and a touchdown. He's a really good back, and I start to, check him out and I give him credit where credit is due. Jamar Chase had 86 yards and a score. Even though his record looks good, or his stats, his records don't look good, and that's the issue right now with Joe Burrow. I don't know what they're going to do. I know they're going to possibly lose T. Higgins. They got to pay Jamar Chase if they want him to stay. I don't know. It's going to be really a lot of growing pains for the Cincinnati Bengals. That final score was 44-38, by the way. Chargers and Falcons game was actually pretty good. I was surprised. I seen how bad my man's played, Kirk Cousins. I just kind of knew he had one of them games in him. He did it with Washington. He did it a lot with the Vikings, and now he finally did it with Atlanta Falcons. He had 245 yards on the day, but with 4 interceptions. Bijan Robinson had 102 yards through the on the rush on the ground, and he had a score as well. The person who's been the shining star right now is Ray McLeod. He had 2 really solid games that I've seen recently. He had 4 receptions and 95 yards. Lad McCunkley had 9 receptions for 117 yards. He's like their number 1 receiver over there. Gus Edwards didn't really do much. He had 6 carries with 32 yards. And Justin Herbert was 16 to 23 with 147 yards. It was really on defense. I know they got one of them interceptions and ran it back for a score, but just the ground and pound in the way of the Coach Harbaugh and the way he built his teams. That's the way they won, just with good hard-nosed defense and running the ball. So congratulations, man. He's bringing that pedigree from Michigan to the pros now. That final score was 17-13. Seahawks and Jets was a really good game to me at first because the Jets was beating the brakes off the Seahawks. And I said, man, are they going to finally try to turn this around? Are they finally clicking as a team? Not too fast. Geno Smith had 206 yards in the score, and Aaron Rodgers had 185 yards, 2 scores, and a touchdown. 2 scores and a pick. Let me get that corrected. That pick cost them too, man. Leonard Williams, where have you been? That guy's been balling, man, most of this year. It seemed like he has a full resurgence. And it's crazy, too, because it was like a reunion game for him. He was drafted by the Jets, then went to the Giants, and now he's with Seattle. In this game, he got that pick 6 for like over 90 yards, too. That was incredible to see the athleticism of the big man. That final score was 26-21. The Texans and the Jaguars game was pretty interesting because I felt like the Texans shouldn't have won that game. I feel like if Trevor Lawrence still was in the game, it would have been different, but he wasn't because what Aziz Al-Shire did. I just feel like it's a struggle right now with the Texans. CJ Stroud is a good player, but the O-line is not really doing what they need to do, and he's starting to have that sophomore slump. He had 242 yards and a touchdown, and Joe Mixon did good with 101 yards in the score. But Mac Jones surprised me in that game. He had 235 yards and he had 2 touchdowns. And one of them touchdowns went to Parker Washington. And he had 103 yards on the day. Nico Collins had 8 receptions for 119 yards as well. But the issue is, I just don't, something's missing. I know they double team Nico Collins, and I don't feel like CJ Stroud have a lot of time in the pocket, but I feel like his decision making, sometimes he processes things too slow and is not making the right decisions when he need to. And yeah, that sophomore slump for him is for real. Cardinals and the Vikings. I was pissed off with this game because I feel like the Cardinals was going to give us a little bit of a cushion and they didn't. The whole game, the Cardinals had this game until they didn't. And I feel like Aaron Jones, when he got that runoff touchdown, congratulations. The defense stepped up when they needed to against Kyler Murray. And the end result was 22-23 Vikings. Titans and the Commanders game was like really bad. It was a blowout. That final score was 42-19. And I don't know if they will possibly get rid of the coach right now because this is his first year, but I would definitely start to look at cleaning out organization right now. Maybe give him another year and try to get some more personnel with him. But 42-19, that spoke volumes of a really bad team and a struggling Will Levis. Buccaneers Panthers game was really good because Bryce Young really looked good this game. He was sharp, pretty accurate. He's been putting together a pretty good resume now after being benched for Andy Dalton. On the day, he had 298 yards in the score. Baker Mayfield had 235 yards, a touchdown, but he had 2 picks. And the running back, Bucky Irvin, looked pretty good on the ground as well. He had 152 yards and he had a touchdown. Mike Evans had 118 yards in the score as well. Adam Thielen, healthy Adam Thielen still is usable. He had 99 yards and a touchdown as well. This was a game that I really felt bad for the Panthers because they supposed to be 4-8 right now. Unfortunately, things happen. When Chuba Hubbard did what he did, the fumble. When he fumbled at the wrong time and Tampa Bay got the ball back, that made them 6-6, and they're tied for first place in the division. So I want to see what that division goes down to, getting close to the end of the season. But good effort, but still a loss in my book. So 26-23, Tampa Bay. The Rams and the Saints game was pretty interesting because the Saints looked like they was going to start pulling away. And that wasn't the case. When I looked like and I said, okay, it looks like the Saints going to try to hold ground and neutralize, the Rams, that didn't materialize the way it did, or I thought that it would. The final score was 21-14. And there's still a whole lot of issues over there in New Orleans right now. I'm still looking at it like Derek Carr's not the answer. And they need to figure out what to do with that high payroll. They need to start, releasing players or figuring out what they're going to do for their future, because the future's not bright over there in New Orleans. Matthew Stafford had 183 yards in the score, and Derek Carr had 184 yards in the touchdown as well. Kyron Williams looked really sharp, man. He had 104 yards and a touchdown on the day. This was the game that I wanted to see, the Eagles and the Ravens. This game, I thought for sure being at home with the Ravens will find a way, but they didn't. Everybody want to look at it and blame Lamar Jackson and say he should have ran the ball more, except for throwing and trying to be like a traditional quarterback. But you could definitely not blame that game on him when you have one of supposedly the best kickers in the game and he missed 3 field goals. I don't know what's going on with him, but he's struggled this whole season. He's been so bad this year that I definitely felt like it's worth watching. How long would they actually keep him on payroll? Because when you need him, he's not coming through now. Those 3 field goals, if he would have made it, possibly could have been the outcome of the game. That could have been a 28-24 game swing. Yeah, it was some bad execution, and I feel like Lamar could have did better. But what surprised me was Philly out physical them and they bullied them most of this whole game. That's a team that I'm nervous about right now, being a Detroit Lions fan. But they just out physical those guys. And Saquon, when they needed to move ahead and win that game, he closed out the game. So the 24-19 was really surprising to me. Saquon had 107 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And I think right now that possibly might help him be one of the front runners of the MVP race. I think right now is Josh Allen and then it's Saquon Barkley and everybody else in that order. 49ers in the Bills game, don't really want to talk about that too much, but at the same time, Josh Allen balled, man. He had 2 touchdowns on the day through the air, and he got one on the ground too with the lateral. I thought that was pretty cool to see. Not only did Amari Cooper catch the ball with one hand, but still had the president know it all to dish the ball and do a lateral to Josh Allen. That game wasn't even close, and it wasn't even really fun to watch. The only part I think was exciting to watch because it was a snow game. The numbers look pedestrian, and I'm starting to say Mr. Irrelevant definitely starting to look like Mr. Irrelevant over there. Brock Purdy had 94 yards. That was it. And I felt bad, too, because Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey got injured. That really killed them this whole year right now. James Cook was cooking too, man. 107 yards on the ground and a score. I really thought that when I seen that game, that 35-10, and the unfortunate thing is about it is Christian McCaffrey's out again with a bad injury. And I don't know, man. I'm thinking that if the Panthers could have did a better job on personnel and drafting, they might be, the ones who win it in this whole ordeal. But the end of the day, I don't still feel like none of them winning because right now I don't see San Francisco 49ers making it to the playoffs. And I don't know what's going to happen to Carolina. They still got to do a lot of rebuilding, retooling over there. They're still trying to struggle and figure out who they're going to have as the quarterback next season. Browns and Broncos was a really good game. Damn, that surprised me. I didn't think it was going to be good at all. It was cool because that game went back and forth. I feel bad too for Jameis Winston because he really had a good game until he didn't. He had 2 pick sixes on the day. And that's one of the reasons why I don't still feel like he's a number one in the league. When he looks good, he have flashes, but when he looks bad, he's bad. He had 497 yards, 4 touchdowns, but with 3 picks and 2 of them went back for scores. Jerry Judy he definitely was the player of the game. Damn, I didn't know when you play your old team and you want to shine, this man shine. Check this out: 9 receptions, 235 yards, and a touchdown. That's the most I've seen from any player coming back to face their old team. Bo Nix had 294 yards, a touchdown, and he had 2 picks on the day as well. The other shining star of the game was Marvin Mims Jr. He looked pretty sharp as well. He had 3 receptions for 105 yards and a score. I feel like if Jameis could have been in control of himself and not throwing and making bad decisions and just basically throwing the ball too fast and not really reading the defense, that's been one of his biggest woes. This game could have been different because they had a chance to go down and drive for the win and score, but that pick six just iced the game. I want to talk about some of the things too statistically that happen in college, and I feel like it's quite necessary right now. And I want to get into some stuff that happened in, what was going on with my Matt Eberflus. When Syracuse beat Miami was one of the biggest games that I've seen too, as far as upsets. The 42-38 victory that possibly might put Miami out of the playoffs, but I still feel like they have a fighting chance. Syracuse football head coach Fran Brown does not take showers after losses. That's what he said. He explained, "I don't deserve soap. Only winners get washed." That sounds crazy, but at the same time, I know he was happy. He got Dabo in to the playoffs. That's what he's thinking right now. But still, if they can win this championship game, it's still a real big possibility. Notre Dame had interception return touchdowns of 99 and 100 yards in the fourth quarter of this win over UFC. The only other FBS team this century to have multiple pick sixes of 99 yards in a single game was UTEP in 2007, games in September and November. NFL coaches and general managers who are fired, and even coordinators. These were some of the guys I had on my hot seat too. Robert Saleh, head coach for the New York Jets, of course. Joe Douglas, GM of the New York Jets. Shane Waldron, offensive coordinator of the Bears. I hope that now he has peace after seeing Matt Eberflus walk out as well. Matt Eberflus, of course, yours truly. Dennis Allen, the head coach for the Saints. Luke Gessie, the offensive coordinator for the Raiders, and Rich Sangarello, the quarterback coach for the Raiders, and James Gray, offensive line coach for the Raiders. And these are the guys who I still feel like Black Monday who will be gone and terminated when the season is over. Brian Dayball, I think that this is his last year. Doug Peterson for sure, and Antonio Pierce. Black Friday was brought by our second game in November with double-digit receptions of 125 plus receiving yards and a touchdown catch. He's the first tight end in NFL history to have multiple games in a single calendar month, including postseason. So congratulations. You possibly pretty soon might be the tight end that everybody's talking about after Travis Kelce. The NFC North is the first division in NFL history to have three teams with 9+ wins by the end of Thanksgiving. Congratulations, NFC North. It's been pretty rough this year. In the last 30 NFL seasons, 1,501 times has a team lost by 1 to 3 points of regulations, regular and postseason. Of those, only the Bears on Thanksgiving ran a play from the inside of the opponent's 30-yard line on the final drive, but ultimately had the time expired without bringing out the field goal unit, without using all their timeouts. And that's why I feel like Matt Eberflus is gone. Because that's supposed to have been their game, and it was just him with the poor execution and time management cost him that game. And his record definitely shows as well. Matt Eberflus' record is 14-32, record of 304. Matt Eberflus never had a winning season with the Bears, which include multiple losing streaks of 14 games from 2022 and 2023, and 6 games. Eberflus' track record in close games was abysmal 5-19 in one-score games. He's 5-19 in one-score games. So some of them games, if he could have closed out and shifted their record, he possibly would still have a job. But that's in the past now. And his game mismanagement's never improved that whole time. So yeah, that's the reason why the decision was vital for them to go ahead and move on from him. The Buffalo Bills clinched the AFC East in Week 13, and they don't play the Patriots for the first time until Week 16. No other team in NFL history has clinched their division more than 1 week prior to playing one of their division rivals for the first time, let alone 3 division titles for the Buffalo Bills. They had it in 1996 and 2019. They were 0-24. Now, for the last 5 years, they're 5-5. Once Tom Brady left, that opened the door for them, and they kept that door open, and they're not moving from that door. I still feel like they're the team to beat. Crazy thing was, I didn't think they were going to be that great this year due to the fact that they had these issues at first. Where I felt like people leaving. I felt like it was too many people personnel-wise that left, and they didn't have a chance. But they proved me and everybody else wrong. They're the only team in Super Bowl era to go 20 consecutive seasons without a division title and then win 5 straight immediately after. So congratulations to the Bills. Right now, they're the team that I feel like that has a chance against Kansas City. But then and again, like I say, it's the regular season. Let's see what they do when it comes to the playoffs, because that's when they usually have their woes and blown games. I want to get on to my predictions too in college, because this is going to be championship week. UNLV and Boise State. I got Boise State in this one, and I'm going to take the points with 4. Tulane and Army. I'm going to actually take Army with this one at home, and I will give them the spread of 5 points. Iowa State and Arizona State. I'm going to go with Arizona State at home, and I'll take the 2 points. This is an interesting one. Georgia meets Texas one more time. I don't think Texas is going to lose twice at home. I'll take the 2.5 points, and I'll go with Texas on this one. Penn State and Oregon. I'm going to go with Oregon on this one, and I'll take the 3.5 points because it's safe. And number 12, Clemson and SMU. I'm going to go with Clemson in the upset on this one. I'm going to take them on that game. I'm going to go to my NFL now, Week 14 predictions. We have the Packers and the Lions. I'm going to go with the Lions with the points. I'm going to take those 3.5 at home. Saints and the Giants. I'm going to go with the Saints, and I'm going to take them 5 points. Browns and the Steelers. It's going to be closer than what people take. I'm going to actually go under with this one, but I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I'm not going to take the 6.5 points. It's going to be pretty close. Falcons and the Vikings. I'm going to go with the Vikings, and I'm going to take those 5 points because I'm not really trusting my man's Kirk Cousins right now. The Ravens and Bucks. Of course, I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm going to take them 7 points. Panthers, Eagles. I'm going to go with the Eagles, and I'm going to take them 12 points. Jaguars and Titans. Jesus. I'm actually going to take the Jaguars, and I'm going to go with them on the -4. Jets and Dolphins, I'm going to take the Dolphins. I'll take the 6. Seattle and the Cardinals. See, this is an iffy game right here. I don't know what Cardinals team I'm going to get, but I'm going to take those 2.5 points, though. Bills and Rams, that's going to be a good one. It's going to be close. I'm going to take the 5 points, and I'm going to go with Buffalo. The Bears and the 49ers, it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be a tough game to watch, but I'll take the 49ers and the 4 points. Kansas City and Chargers, this is crazy. I'm going to take the points, the 3.5, and I'm going to go with KC at home because it's going to be a close one, too, as far as the division rivals. Bengals and the Cowboys is the Monday night game. Jesus Christ. I will take the Cincinnati Bengals and I'll take the 5 points. And that's all I have for today. I would like to say thank you all for chiming in. I want you guys to check out my LinkedIn. I have all my information on there. Hoovy is my Instagram. You can check me out at the Sports Guru to you on Facebook, where I put all the updates. And you can check me out too as well on TikTok. I do all of my reels and all the highlights from the games on there, and that's u.lee6. You can check me out on the Guru's Perspective today, every day on Tuesday at 1 p.m. And then a Google Sports session on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. And if you have any questions you want to ask, you can definitely hit me up too at sportsguru2you@gmail.com. Thank you all for chiming in. I appreciate y'all for making my dreams a reality. God bless. And I'll see you next week.